Hey guys, it is Ms. Calkins, and today we are going to continue with our quadratics and factoring of quadratics, and we're going to do something today called the difference of squares. So I think that you'll find this is much easier than some of the other factoring things that we've done. So I want you to look at number 1. You have x squared minus 36. So what you're actually missing here, you don't see, is that middle term. So I'm going to put it back in there just so you can see what we're looking for. So we have x squared minus, you can do plus or minus, 0x minus 36. So remember, when you're factoring it, you are thinking of two things that are going to give you a product of 36 and a difference of 0. So what two things could you multiply together that would give you a product of negative 36 and a difference of 0? Okay, so those two numbers would be 6 and negative 6. So your factors for number 1 would be x plus 6 and x minus 6. It doesn't matter which one you put first. You can put the minus 6 and the plus 6 there. So if you multiplied that back out to check it, x times x is x squared, x times negative 6 is negative 6x, 6 times x is positive 6x, and 6 times negative 6 is negative 36, and these two terms would cancel each other out. So this is called the difference of squares because you have to have two things in order for this to work. This number has to be a square, so if you put 1 right there, 1 is a perfect square because 1 times 1 is 1, and 36 is a perfect square because 6 times 6 is 36. So it has to be subtraction, and you have to have a square and a square. Okay, so for number 2, here's what I want you to think about. We're not going to worry about those middle terms. I want you to think about what two numbers you can multiply to get 4x. And so that's going to be 2x right here and 2x right here. And what numbers you can multiply together to give you a negative 9. 9 is a perfect square, so in order to get that negative 9, it would be a negative 3 and a positive 3. So basically, you're taking the square root of this and the square root of that. Okay, on to number 3. You're going to split this up into what two numbers do you multiply together that give you a 49. It's going to be a negative 49, so we know that one has to be positive and one has to be negative. So that's going to be a positive 7 and a negative 7. And again, if you were to multiply that back out, that middle term would cancel each other out, and so that's why you only have two terms in the polynomial. Number 4, x squared minus 9. If you break that up into your two factors, that's going to be x plus 3 and x minus 3. X times x is x squared. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. And the middle terms would cancel each other out. So you'd have a positive 3x and a minus 3x. And that's what that would be. All right. Number 5, you have a 1 right there, which is going to be a perfect square. And then you have a 64 right there. So you're going to take the square root of both of those. So you're going to have x plus 8 and x minus 8. And in number 6, this is a perfect square. This is a perfect square. So when you factor that out, you're going to have x plus 13 and x minus 13. Because 13 times 13 is 169. Make one positive, make one negative, and you get the negative 169. Over to number 7. And again, when you're thinking about these, since this is 1x, you just put the x there. So I want you to think about what's the square root of 144, and that would be 12. Since it's a negative 144, you're going to have a negative 12 and a positive 12. Okay. I want you to take a look at an example like number 8, and this is one of those tricky ones. The answer to number 8, actually, you can't factor this. Here's why you can't factor this. 2 reasons. First of all, you have a plus, an addition, and not a subtraction. And secondly, this is not a perfect square. There's no number times itself that gives you 6. So that's as factored as it can get, can't do anything else to it. Number 9, you also, if you had a question like number 9, you can't factor number 9. You do have the subtraction, so that's not the problem. The problem is 32 is not a perfect square. There are no two numbers multiplied together that are going to give you 32 of the same number. So it's not a perfect square. You can't take the square root of 32 and have a whole number. So that's it. Difference of squares is really simple. Your assignment for this is a pizzazz sheet. You only have to do 1 through 10. And the 1 through 10, if you look in the pizzazz sheet, they're not in numerical order. So you're going to have to kind of look around and find 1 through 10. So I would number the problem, number your paper 1 through 10, find the answer, write the answers down on your paper, go into Canvas, drop those answers in. You're just going to put the letter. If you have a question, please come to the Zoom meeting tomorrow at 11 o'clock and I will help you out. See you then. Thanks.